All right, so we're going to look at how to draw your dovetail joint in 3D using SketchUp. And so we have this document that you'll find in your Google Classroom or other classroom management system. And you will read through these details and kind of figure out what you need to do for your drawing. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through here. One thing to remember as we're drawing is one of the dovetails needs to be drawn on the face of the wood, and the other set of dovetails needs to be drawn on the end of the wood. Okay, so one's up here on the face, one's down here on the end on two different pieces. So let's look at starting to draw. We're going to start with a box that's 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches and 6 inches. Now I'm going to make this bigger by zoom extent. And I don't need it quite that big. And then I'm going to move this a little bit and orbit it so I can draw it 3D. So now I've got it tilted down a little bit with the orbit tool. I'm going to use the push pull tool, either up here or in my side menu, whatever one you have available, and push it back. We're going to go 0.75, 3/4 of an inch. Now that I have that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this. I'm going to highlight it, the whole thing blue, so all edges are blue. And then I'm going to go Command or Control C, depending on what you're on, a Mac or a PC, and then Command or Control V, depending on, again, what platform you're on. And I'm going to set it down. I'm going to click on this corner and I'm going to hover over this other corner. I haven't clicked, and I'm going to pull it straight off. And that way they're in the same line or axis as each other. You can see a little red dot when I get what I'm trying to do here. There it is, that red dot kind of indicating that they're parallel to each other and on the same plane. Just going to click for now. Now that it's locked in that plane, I'm just going to slide it straight over so I have more room to work. So I'm going to take a look here at the first one. I'm going to draw the tail side. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to come down 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. The reason that this is 3/4 of an inch is the thickness of the material is 3/4 of an inch. So if this piece is going to lay in here and be flat when it's done, it needs to be 3/4 of an inch. Now, if we look back at your instructions, there's two different methods to do this. We can use the 7% or 7-degree pitch, or we can do the 1:6 ratio pitch to get us where we need to be. So if we look at this, we're 3/4 of an inch at our biggest slots, and an eighth and an eighth, that's a quarter. So we'd be at a ½ inch on our bottom sides. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because this is the one I'm working on. And I can even hit camera, standard view, and click into the top so it's nice and flat. So again, I have the flat surface. I am just wanting to be in nice and close so I can see it. So what I'm going to do is take my pencil tool, and I'm going to start by coming over 3/4 of an inch. That's the biggest part of the dovetail. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back 1/8 of an inch, 1 divided by 8, enter, and I'm going to connect those together. And that creates my 1:6 ratio there of the dovetail joint that I want. So now I'm going to erase this line now that I have my one angle done. And I'm going to use the 3/4 and ½ inch. So I'm going to come over, this is going to be a small side now. I'm going to come over a ½ inch, and this is going to come over 3/4. So I'm going to come over 0.5, enter. And now I can find that green dot. I'm not going to do anything with it yet, but I'm going to come down here now and I'm going to come over 0.75. And now I have two green dots, one here and one up on the top side that I can connect. Now there's one of my dovetails. Actually, my dovetail is going to be out here. This is going to be one of the sockets there. So now I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to do reverse. Now I'm going to flip. Now I'm going to come over 3/4 of an inch, 3/4. And there should be a dot there. And I'm going to come down from this side. I'm going to come over a ½ So I'm going to continue to use ½ and 3/4 as my two sizes. And I'm just going to flip flop, alternate. So big on bottom, big on top, big on bottom, big on top. So now we're going to come over 3/4 again. There's the green dot. And I'm going to come over 1/2. And I should have ½ to 3/4. There it is. Same thing again. I'm going to do the small down here. I'm going to come over 0.5 and I'm going to come over 0.75 and find that one and come down to that green dot. Now I'm going to come over 0.75 and over 0.5. And I should have just an alternating pattern back and forth, 0.5, 0.75. And I'm going to continue to do this till that whole surface is full of dovetails. Okay, and this would be 0.5. And this would be 0.75. Okay, so that's where we end up. We end up with a partial or a half pin here, and that's fine. And now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to zoom out. All right, before we finish, the one over here, this original pin is not quite where it needs to be. I need to actually come in from this side 1/8 of an inch as well, 1/8, and now bring that up to there, and we have that pin. So now we can go through and do all of our pushing back with the push-pull tool, and I'm going to push that little piece back. Whoops, not that piece back, that piece back, and so on until I get all of those pushed back. And then I'm going to come in here with my eraser tool, and I'm going to erase this line because I want this to be one piece of wood with the dovetails. It's not like they're glued on right there. And that would be an example of our dovetails on the pieces. Now we're going to look at the pins, the pin end of the board. Okay. And so there is our dovetails all nice and done. So let's get a look at all of our pieces. And now I'm going to rotate this down a little bit because now I got to draw on this surface right here, the same shape and pattern. So I'm going to zoom in here and maybe zoom out just slightly and move this over. Okay, so I'm going to take my pencil tool. I'm going to do the same thing. I started by coming over 0.75 and I come down and then I come back 1/8, 1 divided by 8. And then I connect that up. I need to do the same thing over here, 1 divided by 8 and connect that up as well. Okay, so now I can erase this straight line because we're done with that straight line. And now we just do an alternating pattern. So just like before, we're going to take our pencil and now we're going to go 1/2 inch, 0.5, and over here, 0.75, and connect those two dots together. And then 0.75 and 0.5. Okay, so now what we're going to do is now we're going to push the wide pieces on top back in. So I'm going to rotate a little bit further so we can see. So now we want to save everything that we got rid of last time. We want to get rid of everything we saved last time. So I'm going to push in 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to grab my push pull. I'm going to grab the dovetail looking surface and push it back 0.75. I'm going to do the same thing every other one, 0.75, 0.75, 0.75, 0.75. So now as we zoom out, we should have a set of dovetails and the pins that will fit in there. Now at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to highlight each one of these individually. So I'm going to take, you can either like triple click or just draw a box around here and make everything in there blue. And I'm going to right click or control click, depending if you're on a Mac or a PC. And I'm going to group these together, make it a group. That's going to lock everything together. So when this piece touches this piece, they don't stick together and our lines become intersected. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take the arrow tool and draw a box around that. And I'm going to control click on a piece or on a Mac or right click on a PC and make it a group. All right, now that they're a group, they're both individual groups that are not going to stick together. So if I move this on top of here and then try to move it again, they're not going to stick together because those are all bound together. Now what we need to do is we need to rotate one of these up 90 degrees. So I'm going to come over and look at it from the edge. When I can see the edge of it, I'm going to grab the rotate tool up here. Looks like a never-ending circle of arrows there. And I'm going to click the corner I want to rotate. This part is going to stay flat on the ground. So I'm going to click this corner. This is the edge that's going to lift up back here. So I'm going to lift this up, and I should be able to watch the angle in the bottom right-hand corner down here. I can see what angle I'm at, and I want to just move it 90 degrees. And then I can snap, and it's locked in at 90 degrees. Now, when I rotate these around and orbit these around, now they're on, one's 90 degrees from the other, and now I can start trying to line these up by, I'm going to go a little bit further, I believe, and I'm going to take this corner. When I move, I'm going to grab this bottom corner, and I want this bottom corner to match up with this corner right there. And now you can see we have the dovetail joint assembled and put together. Okay, so I would like for you, when you do this, to make a copy before you put it together. That way I can see your individual pieces. You can have them all labeled and dimensioned, and then you can also have the joint assembled together. Okay, so before you put them together, you're going to make a copy, and I showed you how to do that earlier in this video. You make it all blue and go Command or Control C to copy, Command and Control V to paste. That way you can come in and use your A1 tool to label all these pieces. So that's how you're going to do your dovetail drawing. You're going to have two copies. You're going to have a copy that's separated, that's labeled. You're going to have a copy that's put together, and the one that's labeled should all be dimensioned as well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to save this file somewhere you can find it, and you're going to upload this assignment and turn it in. Hopefully these instructions help for creating your dovetail.